It's time for Windows Weekly, episode 150. Coming up in just a bit, Paul punctures the iPad reality distortion field, talks about the Modern Warfare map fiasco, and announces his newest book. Windows Weekly is coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott, episode 150 for April 2nd, 2010. There's a badge for that. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Astaro Corporation, makers of the Astaro Security Gateway. To try the Astaro Security Gateway free in your business, call 877-4-ASTARO. And by GoToAssist Express, the easy way to provide instant tech support to your customers remotely. Support smarter with GoToAssist Express. For a free 30-day trial, go to gotoassist.com/Windows. And by Audible.com. To download a free audiobook of your choice, go to audible.com/Windows. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show that covers everything exciting coming from Microsoft, including the Zune, Internet Explorer 8, 9, 7, 4, and 5, and Windows Server, Home Server, 2008 server, all of that stuff.
I know you're dying for a server topic today, but...
That, my friends, is Mr. Paul Thurrott. He's the editor-in-chief of the SuperSite for Windows, winsupersite.com. He's also the news editor for Windows IT Pro, the author of Windows 7 Secrets, and he comes to us from Dedham, Massachusetts.
Right.
Named after John Dead Ham.
I corrected a history teacher in New Mexico about the pronunciation of this town. Did I ever tell you the story?
How did he say it?
Yeah, it was a woman, but it was an American history class in college at the University of New Mexico, and she was describing how in colonial days there was Boston, and then everything outside of Boston, from Maine all the way down to Providence, was called Dedham. And so I raised my hand and I said, actually, it's called Dedham.
Dedham. It's called Dedham.
Would you live there or something?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. Dedham.
So before we get started,
yes,
I wanted to discuss something that is non-Microsoftian.
Oh, no.
It's I don't know if you heard about this, but apparently this week there was a new device released from a major consumer electronics company. It's a sort of a bigger version of a product that they already had. You know, they've already been selling it for years. It has a much bigger screen. Integrates with online services. It comes with bundled applications.
Ooh, wow.
Everyone's going nuts about it.
Yeah, does it have a touch interface as well?
No, it's called the Nintendo DS XL. Did you pre-order one of those, Leo?
No, I didn't.
No? Didn't get one of those, huh?
Yeah, what do you think of the DSX?
Nothing. I think that's
You just was trying to scare us. You was trying to get us all excited. You know, we had...
I'm just saying, maybe overlooked in the silliness over the iPad.
It completely got overlooked.
There's other stuff going on in the world.
Absolutely. Such as...
who knows? Other stuff.
No, this is going to look... You got to face it. Everybody's got to face it. There's nothing we can do about it. It's going to be iPad mania for the month, probably the month of April. I suspect.
Right, because...
Cover of Time Magazine. Cover of Newsweek. Cover of every, it's just the cover. It's the cover story. Oprah probably will be doing an iPad show.
Yeah, those companies always fall all over Apple, so they can...
You think it's unmerited?
Yeah, I do, especially in this case. Absolutely.
Really? You think the iPad is just nothing, huh?
Well, let's say that the iPad is a success, right? And I think it will be a success. I mean, I don't think it's going to be like a groundbreaking new type of product or anything, but let's say they sell, I don't know, millions of them, several million, 10 million.
They're saying 8 to 10 million in the first year, which is...
All right, so let's say it's 10 million.
Kind of a success.
Okay, but let's say it's 10 million.
Yeah.
That's dwarfed by the possibilities of something like, say, Windows Phone, which will be sold throughout the world through cell phone companies and wireless companies, and should sell in the many tens of millions of units.
Good point. Good point.
I mean, I'm not saying that the iPad is not Actually, I am saying it's not important. But
let's be honest.
I'm not saying no. I'm not. But I'm not saying that it's not interesting. Of course, it is. I mean, Apple makes good stuff. There's no doubt about it.
You know why it's interesting to the Windows world? Because Bill Gates is arguably the biggest proponent of tablet computing in the history of man.
Sure.
He has tried and failed 3 times to create tablet PCs. Yep. At least 3 times.
Listen,
in my memory.
I don't mean to. I don't mean to get off on a rant here, Leo.
Rant away. You know, we've begun every show for the last month.
I think that people like Bill Gates are in some ways overrated themselves, and the reason I say that is, Bill Gates was phenomenally successful, obviously, but that was a matter of right time, right place, right person as well, right? I mean, this is a guy who probably would have been successful selling pencils or something, but I think that the success that he had and Microsoft had with Windows. Was something that they tried to replicate again and again and again, and they failed again and again and again. Right. And it's not that Microsoft doesn't have other popular products; of course they do. But their attempts to replicate that success in the mobile market, in the CE market, in the video game market originally, in the music player market, these attempts never worked. So their one attempt at being, their one incredibly crazy successful product, they were never able to duplicate that. By doing the same thing, they have other things like Office that are very popular, obviously. I guess I would, so I don't know, it's hard to respect that in a way because they went after the wrong thing so many times after Windows that, whatever. So yeah, Bill Gates backed the tablet. In some ways, it's no wonder it didn't take off.
Because Bill backed it.
Well, he's not exactly. I mean, he's not dynamic in any way. He's not exciting. Right. He's not the type of people that, or the type of thing type of person that people get excited about. So, I think it in some ways, when you look at consumer technologies, especially, it takes an Apple, or literally in this case, Apple, to do something to the right degree of efficiency and beauty and whatever,
and razzmatazz as well. Yeah.
So the iPhone is a great example of that. The iPod. And then this iPad thing. These are all products that have existed before somewhere else. But they weren't done to the level of refinement, the level of, perfectionism, right, that Apple does. And they don't have and of course, Apple has the leadership quality that is very hard to define, let alone find, anywhere else in the world. There's no one like Steve Jobs anywhere, right?
That's right.
Who's like Steve Jobs?
Well, Gates would be the closest.
But Gates is nothing like Steve Jobs.
And you're right, he's nothing like Steve Jobs. Ballmer's not. I don't think you could. I don't think Larry Ellison.
You have to look outside. You almost have to look outside. Like Mark Cuban, a little bit, but
Mark has no successes to his name. Well, there's something to say.
But he's a guy who is excited by technology and can talk about it intelligently. Is interesting to listen to.
I think it's safe to say there's never been anybody like Steve Jobs.
Right. Yep.
Certainly in the tech industry that I can think of, and probably.
Well, the iPad is that weird, just like every other Apple product, weird combination of functionality and limitation.
Right.
That is just the perfect Apple thing. In this way they do things.
I can really see why some rail against the closed nature of what Apple does, and it really is something to rail against, to be honest. And yet. I find myself, and I resist it as best I can, drooling over this thing, and just excited about getting one. I cannot wait, and I can just
share. No, listen, there is a reality distortion field that it was very aptly named.
I don't know if it's reality distortion. For instance, Andy Yanako yesterday showed us how you can have 2 iPads in the same room and play Scrabble against each other. And it auto senses it via. You don't have to do any pairing or anything. It just says, "Oh, I see somebody else is playing Scrabble. You want to?"
You know how else you could play Scrabble in the same room with someone else, Leo?
How?
Yeah, with Scrabble. It's a board game.
You wouldn't need $1,000 worth of high tech gear.
Yeah, you don't have to have your face buried in another machine, and you could actually interact with people.
I just think that there are applications for this that are.
There are detox programs.
Earth-shattering. No, I think it's hopeless for me.
It's when people are coming out of a cult. Perhaps they need it. No, listen, even I'm susceptible to this. The wake-up call that I got about Steve Jobs years and years ago was I saw him appear at a Microsoft event. I want to say it was Tech Ed or a developer event of some kind, and he was hawking web objects, right?
Oh,
that's what it was.
Which is such a flop, yeah.
Well, but for the day, it was interesting because it was the
they still use
dynamic way to create websites that could change on the fly without reloading the page. Right. This was actually a big deal back in 1996.
Yeah, it was early Ajax.
He was still at Next. That wasn't going well, to put it mildly. And he actually was embracing the notion of porting this technology to Windows NT. So he appeared at this event, and it was mesmerizing. And later on, I ordered a video. It was actually a cassette from Next. You ordered it, and it was a presentation that Steve Jobs gave elsewhere about the same exact topic. The only thing was it wasn't tailored to a Windows crowd. So what I got to see was the same presentation delivered by the same guy in exactly the same way, except in one case he was very pandering to the Windows crowd, and in another he was not. And it was like a little bit of a, it's like when you ever go see a like a rock concert 2 nights in a row, maybe in different cities.
Yeah.
In our area, we can go to Providence, we can go to
you, Cleveland.
Yeah, you actually see the same banter, which you thought was on the fly actually happening, and then you realize it is in fact heavily scripted.
Right.
And it's a little disappointing.
We're disillusioned.
So I think that's the thing that I have going in my favor when I deal with the Steve Jobs presentation is I always remember that and how fake he really is, and that he's a salesman. That's what he's a salesman. We're talking about a thing that isn't in fact expensive, is completely unnecessary, but he gets people excited about it. And listen, I love technology. Obviously, I'm here, but I mean, I think that's who the guy is, and it's I always recoil a little bit at the sell job. I don't know.
Well, somebody's going to do it.
Someone's going to do it. Yes.
These things don't sell themselves,
That's true.
I either am so blinded.
You ordered 2 iPads while I was talking, didn't you?
I did. I actually ordered another one.
That's very interesting, Paul. Click, click, click.
I ordered another one this morning because I have 4 on order. 2 are being given away. One's, to Lisa Tickled Pink, the woman we got 30,000 followers for, and then one to a random follow of hers. One is for the office and one is for me, but they're all the $4.99, the least expensive ones. Yep. And I ordered the top of the line 3G this morning, thinking, I really, I think I'm going to want to
have $850 burning a hole in my pocket.
No, I do not. In fact, it was a bit of a pinch at this point. Yeah. But I'm thinking for a graduation gift for Abby for high school that this is the 3G with a unlimited, 3G connection is probably better than a notebook for her going off to college.
All right.
So I'm just really thinking that this is going to be a device that's going to hit a lot of sweet spots. It's a very interesting product. Very interesting. And maybe I am so immersed in the reality distortion field that I can't see it, like a fish can't see water.
Sure.
And I hope I'm not.
I think you're in the bowl. I think you just don't care. The water tastes good.
I have to say,
you regularly.
I believe this is a landmark change in technology. And I think people, even today, even looking at these early reviews, are missing how significant this is. It's significant.
I think like anything else in life, you need to see one of these things for yourself to appreciate.
Well, I
it.
have. I mean, I held one.
No, I know.
Minutes.
Of course you have. I'm not saying you haven't. I mean, I think
I have been trying to say, well, we'll see.
Hmm.
It's just becoming more and more clear to me that this is the next generation in technology. That's my opinion, and I may, in a month you can mock me when I'm, you prove me wrong.
Oh no, I'll mock you right now, but there's no reason to wait. No, listen, I've ordered one. I think we talked about this before. I don't want to spend too much time on the iPad.
No, we're moving on.
I've wanted a thin and light movie player for a long time. So if all it does well is that, great. And
I guess that's my point. Is it does that and that and that and that.
Oh yeah, it does the other stuff too.
Sure. Yep. And so there's going to be one thing like that for everybody. It might not be the same thing for everybody, but it's why it's a significant device. And but to me, it's significant because it's it's really making computing very accessible, I believe, and in a way that we have not yet been able to do. And I think that that's fairly important. But I could be wrong. I'm prepared to be mocked and laughed at.
Okay, I'm prepared to do that for you.
And I'm glad you're here to make that possible.
It's what people do for each other.
So hey, you know what? You've got Windows 7 series phone.
Yep.
You enjoy yourself with that. That's
I will.
great.
Thank you.
Actually, you got a new book, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And a disaster waiting to happen with Modern Warfare 2.
It already happened.
Oh, my God.
It's an ongoing disaster.
An ongoing disaster. Horrible. But before we do that, can I mention our good friends at Citrix who are back on the air with us? They were gone for like 5 minutes, and I was sad, and I was panicking. But I'm glad they're back because they just really make great stuff. Citrix, of course, does the backbone for Windows remote access. They also really are the kings of this in the consumer space with GoToMyPC and GoToMeeting. And maybe you know about GoToAssist. If you don't, you ought to. If you're in the IT or support profession, and I imagine anybody listening to this show is at least supporting a few friends and family members, GoToAssist Express is a must-have technology. Now, if you don't do it a lot, they have day passes. So you can just buy a one-day pass, say, Saturday, I'm going to fix all your computers. Or if you do this all the time, you might want to get the monthly. It's a monthly unlimited as usual with Citrix. GoToAssist. Now, let me tell you why GoToAssist is better, say, than just using GoToMyPC. It's designed for the support professional. Some nice features. Up to 8 sessions simultaneously. So if you're starting a fix, an install, a scan, you can move on. You can do unattended support, which is very handy. Very easy. Your supportees, your clients, your family members don't have to have it installed ahead of time. You can be in a chat with somebody and say, "Look, I can fix this. Click on this link. Go to GoToAssist.com, and the software downloads in just literally 30 seconds, and suddenly you're there. You're fixing their system." You can copy a file from your computer to theirs if you've got malware bytes or something that you want to use to fix it, a registry fix, whatever. It just is a great way to provide support to friends, family, customers, and clients. And you can try it free. You don't have to take my word for it by going to gotoassist.com/Windows. Head to gotoassist.com/Windows for 30 days unlimited use for free. Start your sessions with just a click of the mouse. Just like all their services. An email invitation is available. It's PC and Mac, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. That's really important. You could service a Mac from a PC or vice versa. You can share your screen with them if you have something you want to show them. It's two-way screen sharing. Integrated live chat. Go to assist.com/Windows. Give it a try. This is a must-have if you support people or non-people. If you support animals, if anything.
Mac users.
Yeah, right. If you support even
those
Mac
guys.
users. Even they. All right, Mr. Paul Thurrott, let us get to the meat of the matter.
Yes, let us.
I guess you have a thank you.
I do. I wanted to publicly thank this man, Peter Franke, who you may recall at CES, I brought a new Windows Mobile 6.5 phone out to Las Vegas with me in my bag. And I took it out in the press room to show somebody, I think Ed Bott or somebody, and the screen was completely smashed. It had been destroyed in transit somehow during the trip. And so I had literally just bought this thing online. I think I spent $600+ on it, for an unlocked Acer phone. You can't even really buy these things in the U.S. And, he wrote me almost immediately, and he said, "Hey, if you can find a screen for that thing, I'll fix it for you for free, no problem." And I said, "Great." I said, "I appreciate that, but I can't even imagine, because they don't sell these things in the United States." And then, a month or two later, he wrote me back and he said, "Hey, this place has the screen," and it wasn't really that expensive.
Wow!
So I bought
awesome.
the screen. They shipped it out from Hong Kong. It was hilarious. It came like it looked like an Al Qaeda letter bomb or something. It was like this really, really funny air, package thing. It was kind of interesting. And it was the screen. So I wrote him back and I said, "Hey, if you're still interested, I'd love to have you do it." But he fixed it and it's perfect.
How hard is it to replace? You just unscrew some screws, or is
I would imagine you have to dismantle it. And I don't know. I didn't.
That's great.
I'm not technical, Leo, but anyway, he did this and he does this, and he So if if anyone is interested in contacting him for this kind of a service, get in touch with me and I'll forward your message.
So does he do this as a company, or it's like his business?
No, I think this is a side.
Did it as a mitzvah.
Yeah, just
Wow.
really, really nice. So there's a lot of bad stuff on the internet, including crazy people who email me or swear at me on Twitter or whatever it is. And, but every once in a while, a nice guy pops up too. And I just really appreciate that.
That's neat. Very nice of him.
Yeah.
Moving along.
Of course, now it's still Windows Mobile 6.5, so it's kind of disappointing.
Any word at all about when Windows 7 system phone? What?
Seriously, Leo.
Is there an acronym or something? Please,
We're just
I
going to call
beg
it
of you.
Windows Phone.
Windows Phone 7.
No, just Windows Phone.
Okay, so I don't. That won't confuse people with 6 and 6.5.
No, because that's Windows Mobile. So now the new system is Windows Phone. That's the platform, the version of this new, the one that's coming out.
Version 7, but it's Windows.
Version 7, but, it's like Windows. So it's Windows Phone, Windows Live, whatever. It's just Windows Phone.
Windows Phone. Thank you. So I needed that. So Windows Phone. Simple. Windows Phone.
Yeah. So I mentioned, I don't know, last week, a few weeks ago, that I was going to be working on a book, and that is now official. And I'd hoped to bring on a co-author, but I'm actually going to go it alone. So over the next 2 to 3 months, I'll be writing the book. And one of the things I decided to do was I wanted to start collecting as I was taking notes about this. And I want to go over all the videos Microsoft has released and take notes and do all this stuff. It occurred to me, I could do this on a website. Why not make a blog? And I think it might be interesting to people if I blogged about the writing process as well.
What a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
So I started a blog called Windows Phone Secrets, right, at windowsphonesecrets.com. And it's also a chance for me to try out WordPress. I'd never used WordPress, so it's just a learning experience for everybody, really. But I'm going to use it to collect all of the, the notes and things, but also write about the actual process of writing, which I think some people might find interesting, like I said, but also as a way to get feedback. So I put up my very early preliminary table of contents for the book, and you can get feedback from people. Some people are commenting, some people are writing me via email, which is absolutely fine. And also just use it as a place to collect the kind of resources that I would use in the course of writing the book. So if there are links to videos that Microsoft has produced or other information online that's worthwhile with regards to Windows Phone.
I think this is great.
Yeah, kind of an ongoing thing. So for the next. I think the main writing of the book is actually, I wrote originally April and May, but probably April, May, and part of June. So I would say during the process of writing, this is not something I will, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. So I think for now, what I'm going to do is write about writing in a sense, or write about Windows Phone a little bit. And then maybe going forward, it will be a place where I could, support the book with updates and so forth and do things like that.
Some people actually write in public, they actually post chapters.
Yeah, no, I can't. See, I like to be as transparent as possible. That's something I can't do because I don't own the content that I'm writing, right? It's owned by Wiley. So I can't actually publish chapters on the site because they would probably sue me.
Right.
But I can discuss what I'm writing, and I think that it can still be very interesting along those lines. But I intend to discuss the whole thing. I want to talk about, the money that's involved and how it gets paid. And I think at the end what I'd like to do, it's going to be very hard, but I'd like to come up with some sort of a bit of math so you can see how futile writing books is. And I'm sure what I'll discover is that I make about $1.78 an hour, in the process of writing a book that's never going to earn back its advance anyway, I'm sure. But
this will make it more fun for you because it'll be more collaborative, I think.
And cathartic.
And cathartic, yes. No, I think it's a great idea. Gina Trapani, our host on This Week in Google, just wrote a book on Google Wave. Now, because she's self-published, she could do anything she wanted. And she wrote it online, sold PDFs online, is selling a print copy of it. And I think she's probably doing just as well if she'd gone with the publisher. This is her third book. Right. But I think it's a more satisfying process to do it collaboratively.
That's interesting because one of the other discussions I intend to have via this blog, as I've had with my actual book publisher and then also the people at the magazine for whom I work, is the notion of how publishing is changing in this age where everything's going digital, and things like the iPad are coming out where people can get access to content in very non-traditional ways. And how would it make sense? Would it be possible to create a mobile application that would have the contents of the book, or an ebook type thing that would make sense on that little device, or could be read on an iPad or a computer screen, that kind of stuff. Right. So that's going to be part of this whole discussion that's occurring here. Anyway, just something new. So
that's exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah,
and what's the published date for this?
September.
That fast?
Yeah, it's really quick.
Because you
Which
want
is
to get
another
out
reason I want to do this blog, right? Because this is like a wham, wham, wham. You know, it's going to happen very quickly, kind of. So.
Boy, you know, it really is like having a baby. You've already forgotten the pain that you just had.
I literally just the woman that I go to the gym with is pregnant, and I asked her, you know, when she was due, and she said in June, and I said I am having a baby of my own in June, as it turns out.
Is that when the manuscript has to be done?
Yeah.
That's all right. That's not so bad. It gives you a couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I can get this in as little as 400 pages, and
I think this is a smart thing, actually, because the phones themselves come out at the end of the year.
September.
Perfect. So you'll have it out with the phones.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I will be buying a phone and a book, just so you know. Yeah.
Well, that's what I wanted to hear from you, Mr. iPad.
I'll have a dozen iPads by then, but I really owe it to it. I tried to order a Juju, you know.
I know.
And I couldn't. And then I noticed a news story that said they'd only sold a few dozen. And I think I know why.
No one can get in there.
You can't order it.
Yeah.
Their site is so
They
screwed
probably would
up.
have done better if they had done a better job with that.
Yeah. I mean, they would have had my money.
Sure.
Only because I have to, not because I want to. But there you have it. There you have it.
Apparently tablets are the next big thing. You know, that's what I'm hearing. So
I think they're going to be huge.
You know, one thing I'm going to be, I'll probably post it this week because I just can't stand to wait on this. But one thing that I'm doing, you know, I've mentioned I want to have this Everything Must Go event. And I'm clearing out my closet here in my office. And there are two big items. In fact, I should have worn this today since it's April 1st. But the two big things that I've kept for some reason, which is really stupid when you think about it. One is I have every badge to every trade show I've ever gone to hanging on my door.
As do I.
The thing must weigh 150 pounds.
I have the same badge tree right here.
Yeah. So eventually I want to get rid of that. Although I'm going to go through them because some of them must be absolutely classic. You know, I'll try to find like the earliest Comdex, you know, all that stuff. But the other thing that is in my closet is way up on the top, I have these huge boxes that, or I did. I just got rid of them all. But they were full of all of the paperwork I've ever received from Microsoft or any other company over the years, dating back to, you know, the Windows 95 beta and all of, you know, back when they used to fax NDAs out and they would send you discs with releases and all this stuff. Crazy documentation. And one of the things that I found in there was from 12 years ago when I went to the what was then the Windows NT 5.0 Beta 2 Technical Reviewers Workshop. They handed out a binder that I swear to you is 8 inches thick and full of paper. And all of the paper inside it is literally printouts of PowerPoint slides, right? Which is horrible.
Oh, no, what a waste.
But it was this event, by the way, that inspired me to create the SuperSite for Windows, because this was where Microsoft was going to combine the consumer versions of Windows with the the NT versions of Windows. And, of course, that became Windows 2000, and it wasn't quite what they said it was going to be at Beta 2, and that really happened with XP. But it was this event that inspired me to start the site that I'm probably most well known for. And I have my notes are all handwritten for some reason. I can't quite explain that, but I have I've scanned them all in. So I'm not gonna publish all of my notes necessarily, but I'm gonna go back and write about it based on notes.
Yeah,
and then I compare it to what I wrote 12 years ago. Yeah. You know. Anyway, so that I think sometime maybe over the weekend or next week I'll publish that too.
I'm looking at my my tree.
Oh, that's nothing.
I would think every tech journalist has something like this. I know it's nothing.
My office is a mess because I've been cleaning, but I will show you this.
Yours is bigger?
It's absolutely bigger.
Oh, look at that. Holy camole. Now, the oldest thing I could find on here is 1997 Comdex. I'm sure there's something older on there, but that's 13 years worth of badges.
Now, like I said, this thing, it probably weighs... I mean, I probably would have a hard time lifting it.
It's fun. I bet you everybody does that. I wonder what Dvorak's look like, huh? Or Jerry Pornell.
It's like, when you're a baby and you reach up at the thing that's hanging over the crib.
Yeah, it's a mobile.
It's like that, like a mobile.
Yeah.
Or the type of thing like a cat would like to play with.
Well, it's funny because Dr. Kiki comes in here and plays with it every once in a while. So
she actually lays on her back and makes purring sounds.
Find the badge. No, it's really... I'm just teasing. It's really... it's funny. I thought I was the only one who did that. So that's good to know that I'm not.
No.
When you get back from an event, you hang the badge on the tree.
Yeah. But I'm
going to
I am gonna toss it.
Don't toss it, dude.
No, I'm tossing it.
That's something for your children to toss.
Like I said, I'm gonna go through it because some of those things in there are gonna be classic.
Yeah.
And I'll scan them in or whatever.
Bits and Bytes in our chat room says you should make a wind chime out of it.
It is. It's already a wind chime.
Come to calm down.
Not that any wind could pass through that thing, you know.
I had it upstairs, and I just recently brought it downstairs because I thought, this should be part of the set. But I can't fix. It's too messy to have it on the set, so I don't have it on the set. But it's kind of fun. Maybe when I'm dead, they can hang it on my coffin.
Oh, God.
You could add up the number of wasted hours and burned shoe leather.
Yes.
Oh, I have to correct myself. I said This Week in Google. I was talking about Gina Trapani. I should have said the new name, This Week in Topeka.
Yes.
I think that this is a very funny Google April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
They renamed themselves to Topeka.
They probably did it so all of those people suing them would sue the town of Topeka. Or the city of
Topeka changed its name to Google.
Sure.
Because they wanted the Google fiber to the...
But, liability comes with that. So
yes.
So did they win the Google fiber contest? Is that the point?
I bet you in Topeka they're jumping up and down thinking they won.
Sure.
But
the joke's on them.
I think the joke's on them. I think it's April Fool's. I don't know. Do you think they'll give it to Topeka?
I think they'd have to now.
Now that they're called Topeka.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they'll get Topeka fiber for communities, which is absolutely not. I don't know. That's funny. There's a badge for that. Moving on to item number 3 or 4, depending on how you count.
Wherever we are, yeah.
Windows 7 adoption trends. This isn't really how many adopters there are, but how happy they are.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I don't get access to these reports. I kind of wish I did, but their executive summary basically says that there are 2 reports. One where they measured the satisfaction of people who bought Windows 7, which is generally very satisfied, I guess, which is good.
Satisfied.
But the other one, and also that, Windows 7, of course, is thanks to, good marketing, most likely, is also well known as a brand. Like, people are aware of it, right? And it's funny, even my wife, who just doesn't care about technology in the slightest, has pointed out some Windows 7 commercials to me recently, which I find kind of interesting. Like, she actually found these interesting. So, okay. But the other one, and this is actually kind of a big deal, I think. One of the conversations that we've had is about, how people acquire Windows. And what Microsoft had told me in the past was that when you look at retail versions of Windows, roughly speaking, 95% of people acquire Windows with a new PC. That's how they get it. And that the other 5% are people that go into a store and buy Windows and they upgrade their computer. It doesn't happen all that often. With Windows 7, that trend is completely obliterated. An almost exactly equal number of people are getting it with new PCs and just buying a retail copy and upgrading their existing PCs.
Really? That's shocker.
Really interesting.
That's a shocker.
45% versus 43%. Huge change. Now, there are technical reasons for this, right? Windows 7 runs fine on all those PCs that have been out there for a long time. That's neat. But, the one thing that Forrester doesn't mention, and I think this is an important point, is, the people who are buying Windows 7 in a retail situation and then installing it on their own computers, the vast majority of those people don't really have a good experience coming. They have to wipe out their computer because they're running Windows XP. There is no way to upgrade from Windows XP directly to Windows 7. So that makes this all the more impressive, right? That understanding that they're going into this and they're going to have to back up and blow away the computer, and as a result, will hopefully have a better experience when it's all said and done. Half of the people are still doing that. It's amazing. So that's even more incredible than it seems, I think, at first glance. And a huge change from previous versions of Windows. I'd have to think that you'd have to go back to Windows 95 to see anything like this. But even then, Windows 95 didn't run great on those Windows 3.1 machines that were out at the time. You really wanted to get it with a new computer even then. So this may, in fact, be unprecedented.
I'm wondering, though, how much of that is good news and how much of it just indicates that people are unhappy with Vista and think somehow Windows 7 is going to be a magical improvement to Vista. Is it?
Well,
do we know
it is indeed a magical improvement to Vista.
Actually, it's much faster and smaller.
No, we
right?
don't. No, we don't know what the breakdown is of those people. Obviously, there are millions and millions of people running Windows Vista as well,
Right.
and those people will, if they wanted to, could do an in-place upgrade. One of the other things I pointed out in a news article about this is that it's likely that the economy also plays a role here, right? That when faced with the notion of $125 for a copy of Windows versus, I don't know, $600 to $800 for a decent computer, it's cheaper to buy the software. You know, that's another thing. I mean, and I think that plays a role here. But again, you know, it's one thing to go from 5% to 10%. That would be an incredible change. Going from 5% to 43% is still crazy, no matter what the reason. I mean, that's a huge change.
Well, how do you account for it, except for that people think that they're going to get a big improvement? I mean, the same way that the 31F95 was a big improvement.
Windows 7 has a good reputation. People understand this. You know, Windows Vista, I think undeservedly so, but it is a fact that it had a terrible reputation. People tried to avoid it in droves.
So you got a lot of XP upgraders who skipped Vista, but I have to think you got a lot of Vista upgraders who think they're going to get an improvement with 7.
Right. Right. So I would, I think at best it's probably a 50-50 mix, but I think there's probably more people with XP.
Yeah.
I think so.
It may also reflect a new way of thinking about operating systems that you can maybe blame on Apple a little bit. The idea that, you know, for a long time in Windows, you know, you didn't have to get the next version. But Apple's kind of inculcated people in this idea that every couple of years you update your operating system, maybe even every year.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point because Microsoft has changed their strategy for releasing operating systems about as many times as they've actually released an operating system.
Right. As many times as they've changed the numbering scheme.
Yeah, and you know, for a couple of releases there, the plan was to have server and client releases in lockstep, and that they would do a major version, and then a minor version, and then a major version, and then actually that's as far as they ever got. So that is not the plan anymore, right? The plan at Microsoft now is that every 3 years or so, they will release a new version of Windows. It's not considered major or minor. It's just a new version. There'll be a client version. There'll be a server version. And that is in many ways closer to the way Apple does things. So, and by the way, again, not to keep harping on the Apple stuff, Apple, one thing they've always done a really good job at, and this is certainly not true on the Windows side, is, you know, when you take a version of Mac OS 10 and you can do an in-place upgrade, you don't hear a lot of stories about that not working. You know, on the Windows side, this has always been a weakness. Now, Vista and 7 are so close, and they've, of course, been improving the situation over time, that if you do have a copy of Windows Vista and you want to do an in-place upgrade, it's probably more stable and reliable than it's ever been. I still have had so many bad experiences doing this that I don't recommend it necessarily, but it's certainly gotten a lot better over time, and hopefully that's something they continue, again, going forward.
Hey, I want to talk about this Modern Warfare thing, but in a second, if you don't mind. We'll just put it off one more minute, because I do want to also mention our sponsor, Astaro Corporation, one of the first sponsors on the TWiT network. In fact, I think the first sponsor on the TWiT network. For years, they have been making the best UTF in the market, the Unified Threat Management, UTM, I should say, Unified Threat Management Device, the Astaro Security Gateway, ASTARO, Astaro Security Gateway. The primary idea of the ASG is to unify all the threat management devices in the market, best of breed, whether they're commercial or non-commercial, whether they're open source or closed source. Very strong stuff. Superior protection from spam, from viruses, from hackers, complete VPN capabilities, intrusion protection, content filtering, of course an industrial strength firewall, in an easy-to-use, high-performance appliance. One that scales with your enterprise using their unique active-active clustering. So as you grow, you can add up to as many as 10 Astaro security gateways without the need to install additional load balancing. That's a patent-pending technology, among many in the Astaro security gateway. Of course, they've got built-in encryption using OpenPGP or SMIME so that your email can be signed and encrypted, and incoming email can be decrypted and verified automatically. I could just go on and on and on. Now, there are a couple of things you could do. If you want to try it in your business, you should just call them. They'll put a free demo unit in. No obligation, no cost. 877, the number 4, ASTARO. 877, the number 4, ASTARO. That's 877-427-8276. Even the call is free. But if you're outside of the U.S., you go to astaro.com. And if you are interested as a non-commercial user, there are a number of ways you can do Astaro for no cost in a non-commercial environment. There's a VMware appliance that's very, very popular. You could download, install, and have it running instantly. Or if you've got an old computer lying around, download the full Astaro, including Astaro Up to Date, which they used to charge 79 euros a year for, which gives you all the updates automatically. I mean, this thing is great. And you can use it for free in a non-commercial environment by going to astaro.com. If you're in business, if you're an IT professional, if you know you need, and you do these days, better protection than ever, go to the best, the Astaro Security Gateway at www.astaro.com. We thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly. So what's this deal with Modern Warfare 2? What's going on, Paulie?
Everything I love just comes back to haunt me in the end, you know?
Everything I love hates me.
Yeah, exactly. No, you know...
Is this Blizzard's fault? Is this another Blizzard...
Well, this is
Infinity Ward.
Yeah, a little bit of Infinity Ward, a little bit of Microsoft. It's kind of a hellish mix when you think about it. So obviously Modern Warfare 2 came out in November. It's the biggest game of all time, yada, yada, yada. We all get the idea there. But... the first map pack came out this week, finally. And, 5 maps. 3 of them are brand new. 2 of them are retreads of maps that were in the previous version of Modern Warfare, which is just fine. As someone who plays way too much Modern Warfare, I would just tell you that...
You haven't burned out on it?
Yeah, I mean, I've slowed down, but I have to finish this 10 prestige thing. It's going to happen, but... the previous game, I think I played to the same depth. I really enjoyed World at War, the 5th game. They released 3 map packs over time. And these map packs really help you to keep going because, obviously if you're playing the same maps over and over again, it gets a little bit stale. So you come up with new maps, and it's a way to, keep people playing the game. But, in typical Microsoft fashion, right, this whole thing was completely screwed up. And it's just sad. It's amazing to me that in 2010 we're still dealing with these kind of problems. So the way it worked was this thing was going to come out on Tuesday, and in the past when they've released these map packs, the releases typically would occur at midnight. The night before, people would stay up and wait for them or whatever. But I got up in the morning. My son had gotten up early. He was all excited about it, and it wasn't out yet. So I waited and waited. They said it was going to come out at noon. 10:30 came my time, and it was out. So you download the maps. You pay for them. You have to pay. They're $15 or 1,200 Microsoft points, as we say in Xbox land. Which is
do you do this? You could do that calculation in your head.
No,
now?
I can't. Okay. That's infuriating. I hate Microsoft points, but whatever. So you buy them because you're a sap and you have to. You download the maps, and you're so excited you want to play them, and you try to get in, and they're not available. Like, they don't work, and you don't know why. And after 15, 20 minutes of futzing around wondering why this thing you just paid for isn't working, you get logged off sort of unceremoniously, and then it says there is an update available for this game. So you go to install it, and it doesn't work. And it doesn't work. But the way it doesn't work, Leo, and this is the thing, this is why I love Microsoft so much. It tries to download the update that is needed for the map packs that you've already downloaded and paid for and installed, right? The update wasn't made available first, God forbid. That the order of things be correct. But this update was screwed up for at least an hour, depending on where you were. Some people, hours more. And the way that it was screwed up is this. If you try to launch the game, it says, there's an update available. Would you like it? Yes or no? If you click no, you can't play the game. If you click yes, it tries to download the update, fails, and then it reboots the Xbox. So you try to launch the game again. Would you like to install the update? Yes. Installs, fails, reboots. And I spent an hour doing this. Anyway, finally the thing comes on. It works. You get in. You can't get in any games. It's unbelievable. But the final way that they screw you over, and this is still a problem today. So here we are 2 days later. The map pack has successfully been deployed, to whoever wanted it by now. people are playing it online. But unlike with the previous Call of Duty game, Infinity Ward really screwed over people, I think, with this. They're only allowing you to play the new maps in 2 different lobby types. So if I wanted to go in and play Team Deathmatch, which is pretty much what I play exclusively, but only with the new maps, something that was possible on the previous at least 3 versions of Call of Duty, I can't. I can only play their special game lobby types, which is a random mix of different game types, many of which I do not want to play. So it's domination, it's headquarters, it's capture the flag. And okay, variety is fun. I appreciate the variety. The problem is, like, there's a different spawn rule for all of these games. So in one game, if you get killed, you have to wait till the round is over before you come back. In other game types, you get killed and you come right back, just like you do in Team Deathmatch. That's great. Sometimes you have to wait 8 seconds or 20 seconds or 30 seconds. There's no understanding of how long it takes because every one of these things is different. So, 2 days later, all these people have paid all this money. We're pretty much stuck playing these stupid game types. We can't just apply the games to any of the game types. Yeah. Now, I expect that to change over time, right, as more people have the map pack. But that should have been an option. That was an option, like I said, on previous versions of Call of Duty.
Right.
I just don't understand why they hate me so much.
Why do they hate me so?
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of blame to go around, And every time this happens, you get this, Major Nelson gets up on Twitter, and there's this kind of triage thing that occurs.
Mea culpa.
Oh, it's just like, we didn't know that so many people were going to come. Oh, jeez. Really?
You didn't know? Really? You didn't know?
To say that. But, I mean, it's you knew this was coming.
Right.
Right? This was scheduled a month in advance.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Anyway, yeah, that's my...
It's done now. And really, look on the bright side. The new Zune is almost out.
Yeah, it is. That's the Zune I would have bought in September if they had offered such a thing.
What's the difference?
It has 64 gigs of memory.
Gigabytes.
Instead of 32 or 16.
64 is a nice round number.
64 is a great number. But, again, this would have been nice a while ago. So anyway, starting April 12, if you haven't bought a Zune HD and you were holding out literally because you wanted to get a version with more
You were smart.
space.
You knew what you were doing.
It will be $350. I'm not positive about this, but it's funny to me. They specifically note that you'll be able to order it from Zune Originals, which is their web ordering system where you can specify a custom color, if you want a green or blue or red or whatever. And you can also get one of those etchings, on the back of the device, which is cool. But, I mean, it almost suggests like that's the only way it's going to be sold,
Right.
It's got kind of an also-ran kind of weirdness going on around it, Speaking of the Zune, one of the great questions I got, and by the way, this is the first excellent thing that came out of me blogging about the book was, somebody asked me, hey, are Windows phones going to have this Zune connector? Like all the Zune devices, all of them, all the way back to the original one have had the same kind of connector, similar to the iPod dock connector.
Right.
Or are they going to have USB or whatever? And as you probably know or might remember, Microsoft has a very specific set of criteria for Windows Phone devices. They have to have a certain kind of screen, a certain kind of processor, et cetera. It seems like this is something they would specify in the spec, the connector type.
Right.
So I asked Microsoft, and as it turns out, they're not using the Zune connector. In fact, they're not specifying a physical connector of any kind. So device makers are free to do whatever they want. So I think we're going to see, USB micro, USB mini, whatever, as you do on other devices. But, it's too bad in a way. Not that the Zune ecosystem ever took off in any meaningful way, but there, as as an Apple user, there are certain advantages to having this standardized port.
Because everything works with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a known quantity, right? So if you want to make if the
not that Apple would ever hold back on changing a connector just
right, or randomly change the connector from release to not tell anybody.
It's a long tradition.
Sure.
From all the tech companies.
Yeah, they all do it.
They're glad to do that, especially if there's a way to make money on it. They'll do it.
Actually, I ran into this. So I rented a movie on iTunes when I was away. Didn't watch it. I needed to return the computer to Lenovo. It was a loaner. Copied the movie to the iPhone, right? Or moved it because it's a rented movie, right? That's how it works in iTunes. With the notion that I would connect that to my own laptop and then move it to there, and then I could maybe use that to watch it on the Apple TV. An unbelievably complex and crazy amount of Apple technology in the Thurrott household. Somewhere along the way, that thing got botched. So as far as the devices were all concerned, this movie no longer existed. Why am I telling you this story? See, the story's so convoluted, I even forgot the point of this.
That's okay. I do that all the time.
No, but, it's... Where was I going with this, Leo? I'm losing my mind.
Don't ask me, Paul. I'm just along for the ride. If the driver's crazy...
It was on the phone. So I'm thinking, well, I literally have over here in this bin 5 or 6 docks for iPods and iPhones and things. One of these, surely, will play through to the TV using the AV cables I already have as well.
Right.
And it turns out that does not work.
No?
And the reason is, starting with the iPhone, which I never knew, they actually have an iPod dock connector to AV cable, a single wire that branches out. You don't need a dock anymore. In fact, the iPhone docks don't do AV out. You have to use this cable setup.
Right.
So I don't have that. None of the docks I have work.
No.
The AV cables I have don't work directly to the iPhone, of course. So now I have a movie on my phone, and it's going to expire in like 7 days.
The clock is ticking.
Yeah. I don't know why anyone complains about them being so dominant. I love that stuff. It's great.
Yeah. Why? We don't care. We don't have to. We're the phone company.
I guess so.
A great tradition of monopolies.
And by the way,
everywhere.
did you notice in this story about how I couldn't get this to work? If you actually counted it, easily in the teens, the number of Apple devices and or software installs I just mentioned, and I couldn't get this thing to work on any of them.
Really?
Yeah, the only way I could watch this movie right now is if I played it on the iPhone using the iPhone screen.
Huh.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
By the way, I don't know if you knew this already, but just in from our intrepid chat room via Twitter that Modern Warfare, all the maps now have double XP points. And
but again, that's true, and that is a bonus. Yes. But again, you have to play in these custom lobbies, so you are getting double points, but you have to play whatever game randomly comes up. You can't choose your own game type.
Oh, I get it. Then they haven't fixed that.
No, and I'm sure from their perspective, it's not broken. I'm sure what they're thinking is, we'll add them into the general population after more copies have been downloaded or whatever.
Right.
But, it's not too hard to add a submenu that says just the installed maps, just the new maps, or both installed and new maps. I mean, that's the way it always worked in the past.
Right.
It's my pet peeve of the week. That's exactly what I sound like.
You want to talk about Microsoft Office 2010?
A little bit.
Okay.
There's nothing really going on there, right? We're still waiting for Office 2010 to be released, but they
better hurry.
Well, it's going to happen soon.
Okay.
But it's interesting because on the same day, I read an article in the Wall Street Journal that said Microsoft's Office business is under fire from Google, and I thought that's interesting because I was under the impression that Google's Office stuff was not competing in any meaningful way with Microsoft Office. Maybe there's new information here that I'm not aware of. And if you actually read the article, there's no actual fact in there that suggests that Google is making inroads on Microsoft Office at all. In fact, I think we would both agree that Gmail is doing very well, and Google is doing a good job, I would say, of positioning Gmail through Google Apps as a viable alternative to Exchange. But as far as Microsoft Office goes, I mean, come on, there's no. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought that this whole premise was bogus because when you think about what Microsoft is doing with Office 2010, this new version of the suite that's coming out, I mean, it's sort of a tepid update, right? There are two sort of big things going on from a client perspective. One is that, they're adding this ribbon UI to all of the apps, right? Not just to most of the apps, but okay, no, that's not really a huge deal. I mean, that's what you would expect them to do in this version. But also there's this Office web applications component, right? They're going to have a free version of certain Office applications that will run up in the web, but they're also kind of tepid in a way, right? Because they're not, you're not getting Microsoft Word. You're getting, I don't know, 10 or 20% of Microsoft Word. And and if you know how things like Google Apps work, if you looked at HyperOffice or any of these other Office suites that live up in the cloud, there's some pretty sophisticated functionality that's possible up in the web. And it seems to me like if Microsoft really wanted to go after this market, they could have just replicated Word, and Excel and PowerPoint up in the cloud. They could have actually done it. And I think the fact that they didn't do it tells you where Microsoft's at right now with respect to how they view the competition. That if Microsoft needed to do that, I think they would have. And the fact that they didn't says they don't need to. And I think what Microsoft learned with Office 2007 was that you can release this really inexpensive version of the product that runs on home machines, and you can install it on up to 3 computers, sell it for $125, and suddenly you have the best-selling version of Office you've ever made.
Right.
And so for all the cloud computing kind of stuff that's going on in the world, this very traditional product that you typically buy on a disk, although that will change too with 2010, but you install it on your computer. It's literally it's the same kind of thing that Office 95.
Software.
Yeah, go figure. But it's still a huge deal.
Right.
And I think that's just important to note. One of the pushbacks I get from people when I talk about cloud computing is that, this desktop software is going nowhere, that this stuff will always be around for a long time. And, sure, some of that's true. But I happen to think that there's a sort of a hybrid solution that makes the most sense, where you have applications that live in the cloud, but there's the notion of local caching, so you can run them offline and so forth. And I think that's kind of where we're really going. But Office, in my case too, is still that one big application suite. It's a big thing. It's a lot of stuff. I install it every single time I have to. And, I'm a writer. I get it. I need certain tools and so forth. But I've used OpenOffice. I've used all the OpenOffice derivatives. I've used Google Docs. I've used a lot of the other cloud computing stuff. I've used Corel WordPerfect, various versions, including the very latest version that even has a ribbon UI. And, they're just not Office,
Yeah.
And it is the one thing that Microsoft has consistently gotten right, I would say, over the years, with the exception of that stupid Clippy thing. They've done a good job with it.
I don't blame them for Clippy, because you got to try stuff. We have to allow them to, try things. And
Natural UI. It was nice of them to try.
Yeah.
Sure.
And they, their credit, they knew when to get rid of it. They didn't get rid of it then.
As soon as they could, yeah. Nope.
They could have gotten rid of it sooner, but
Clippy went out in an alley behind Building 25, and that was the end of him.
Hey, I don't want you messing with my users. Stay away from them.
No, I do not want to write a ransom note, Clippy. That's the end of you.
Goodbye, Clippy. I think it's still the case that you got to have Office. It's not a sexy app.
But it's amazing, isn't it?
You just have to have it.
Right. There aren't many applications like that.
No, it's unique.
There really aren't. It's interesting. I mean, it's the one thing. Yeah, you got to have it.
You got to have it.
Yep.
You got Windows. You got to have it.
Yeah.
Speaking of Windows, time for the thing I'm liking more and more as you do it, the Windows 7 feature of the week, where we highlight something that is new in Windows 7 you may even know about, but
sure,
there's so many new features in Windows 7 we don't get to talk about them as much as we ought to. This is something just for those of you who like the ribbon.
Well, and that ties in nicely to the Office conversation, because obviously one of the big deals with Office 2007 and then again in 2010 is this ribbon UI. And I'm still amused when I hear and read about people who have called this thing a disaster, or it doesn't work and they hate it and all this stuff. And Microsoft, as they do for Windows as well and for other products, has this kind of metric-based feedback that they get, and what they know internally based on the feedback they get is that the ribbon actually really works. And it's interesting because, as we had talked before in the podcast, when they introduced this with Office 2007, the thought before this release was, well, Word and Excel and PowerPoint, these are pretty mature applications. Where do you go from here? You've got a word processor. You write with it. I mean, what more could you do to advance the state of the art? And the ribbon UI is actually really interesting, and contrary to sort of this underground, popular belief, it actually has been very successful. So with Windows 7 for the first time, they've moved the ribbon into the core operating system, and they're making it available to developers so that they can use it in their own applications that will run natively under Windows Vista and Windows 7 as well. And Windows 7 includes 2 applications that use the ribbon, and then there's a third that's part of the Windows Live Essentials suite. Paint, WordPad, and Windows Live Movie Maker. And these are just examples of applications. They're almost like, the poster child applications, right? So that developers could look and say, okay, this is how I can make these things work in my own app. The interesting thing is Microsoft's going to be using the ribbon far more extensively going down the road. So as we look forward to Windows Live Wave 4, for example, you can expect to see the ribbon appear in far more applications, mail and so forth. All those applications are going to be ribbonized.
I like the ribbon. I've come to like the ribbon. I don't mind the ribbon.
I do too. Yeah. I do too. And actually, I find that it works really well in a variety of situations. So, for example, if you're on a low-res netbook or a laptop that has is not really high-res like my desktop might be, you can minimize it very easily, and you get a very clean, in the case of Word, just a writing surface, but you have all the power of that functionality right behind a button. And then if you're on a full-screen window like I would be here at home, you can have the full UI out. You can, maximize the window, and you get this incredible palette of functionality. So I think the cool thing about the ribbon, though, is that it just exposes functionality that, frankly, a lot of it's been there for a long time, but people didn't know it was there. And that's really the point of it. That what Microsoft discovered with Office first was that the top 10 requests they got were all for features that were already in the product.
Right.
And the reason they were getting these requests is people
could find it.
Yeah.
And they had no idea. Yeah. So you have a link in your notes here to a local host. I don't think that's...
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I do. So if you replace localhost with winsupersite.com.
Ah, that would be you.
That was the link. Okay. If you would go into your host file and map hosts to my IP address.
There we go. Everybody will be happy. Yeah.
I apologize for that.
I'm going to put that link in the show notes as it should be, as opposed to, which is winsupersite.com/win7/ff_ribbon.asp. But you know it as
WinSuperSite. It's another site that I work on. That's not my homepage at home. Yeah,
that's not his blog. All right, winsupersite.com. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so there's a more in-depth discussion of the ribbon on the website.
The ribbon, which we love.
Yes, sir.
Very much. It's a beautiful thing. Let us move to our Windows 7 tip of the week, I believe, is the next item in our...
Okay. I should mention this up front. Last week, it was kind of a joke, actually. I thought that was obvious, but I was talking about the ultimate power user keyboard shortcut, right? The Shift plus F10.
Right.
And which is the right click kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I got an email. This guy said, there's been a right-click key on the Windows keyboard since 1995. I mean, it's inconceivable that any modern keyboard does not have this key. And sure enough, if you look at a Windows keyboard, on the right side of the space bar next to the Alt key, there's a key that's got a little picture of a menu on it. And that is, in fact, the same.
That's the right-click.
That's right-click, yeah. So that's actually an easier way to do it.
My keyboards, but...
Well, yeah, it's probably not on a Mac keyboard.
Oh, wait a minute. I do see it. I do see it on this keyboard, though. So that's the right click? I never knew what that was.
I know. Well, the funny thing is I knew what it was, but every time I think I need to right click in my head, because I've been doing it for so long, it's Shift plus F10.
Right. So.
How funny. Anyway, that's not the tip of the week, but I just wanted to throw that out there. If you were actually concerned about right clicking with the keyboard, that's actually probably an easier way to do it if your mind is not already warped by time like mine. So anyway, this week's tip is about the smart copying of files. This has been a problem in Windows for a long time. It becomes more of a problem in Windows 7, actually, because of the way libraries work. But you probably know, if you drag a file around, say it's on your desktop, and you drag it over to a location in an Explorer window that is on the same hard drive or partition, it will move it, right? It will move that file from the desktop to that new location.
Right.
But if you do that same drag and drop operation and you drag it over to a network location or to a different partition or hard drive, It will copy it, not move it. That's the default behavior. Now, the reason that's a problem in Windows 7 is that with libraries, you can have different locations aggregated inside of these libraries, like documents, music, pictures, and so on. So it's possible, depending on where you let go of the mouse button, that you will copy or move a file while dragging it over, right? So you want to be careful about that kind of thing. There's a lot of things that come into play there, like the default save location and so forth, but, you know, you want to be careful. So there's different ways you can override this default behavior. So, for example, if you always want to copy a file, even across from the same hard drive, as you're dragging it over, hold down the Control key, and then when you let go, it will copy it, even if it's on the same drive. One of the other things you might want to do is create a shortcut. There isn't a way, I know, and I'd be interested if anyone does know this, but I don't believe there's a way to automatically move it, regardless of where the target location is. But if you hold down if you hold down Control and Shift while you're dragging, you'll create a shortcut when you let go. The simpler way, though, to override all of this stuff is to simply click on something and then drag it while holding down the right mouse button. Because when you do that, no matter where you bring it, when you let go, a menu will pop up, that right-click menu, and you'll get the three possible options right there. Copy here, move here, or create shortcut here. And that's probably the best way to go. So if you want to be sure that it does a certain thing, if you want to move that thing or you want to copy that thing and you know that's what you want to do and you don't care what the target location is, drag it with that right mouse button instead of the left, and then you'll get that menu at the end and you can choose which one you want.
Very sweet.
And I should say thanks to Nick Schaust for this tip.
Yay, Nick. Override the default behavior. Or you could just press the menu key and do it.
The menu key? Well, you could, listen, there are a million ways to do this. You could also select the file and Control-C if you wanted to copy. You can, you could do Control-X move, which is actually cut, but then you paste it and it's a move.
I've done all of that.
All different ways to do it, yeah. I typically, if you're curious, I mean, the way I do it is I do that last thing. I drag it, if you will.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying. If you press the menu key, that'll work too, right? You hold the menu key and then drag. Actually, see if that works.
So if you select the file and you hit that menu, you mean that little menu key in the keyboard?
The thing we were just talking about, yeah.
Yeah, so from there you can choose things like cut, copy, and other options, yeah.
Oh. But if you drag and hit the menu key, timing it perfectly.
If you drag and hit the menu key?
Perfectly timing.
Can't do that.
Doesn't work. Oh, man.
Impossible.
I thought I was so smart. That's why you still have to have a right mouse button. Right?
Yeah, what kind of computer doesn't have a right mouse button? That's not a computer at all, Leo. That's something else.
Nothing I know of. Hey, let's.
It's not 1983 anymore, Leo. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, you might be right. We are going to come back in just a little bit with more great tips for you. A software pick of the week, actually. No tips. So you move the tip out of there.
Windows 7 tip. That's what we're doing now. Windows 7 tip.
We did that. And now we're going to take a break and come back with the software pick of the week.
Alrighty.
But first, a brief mention of our good friends at audible.com/Windows. That's the place to go to get a free audiobook of your very own. Audible is a great bookstore, 70,000 audiobooks that you can listen to. Now, you could get your Kindle or your iPad to read to you with a computer-synthesized voice, but this is a professional actor bringing a book to life. And it does make such a great difference. I have to say, they use the best readers. Wonderful choices. If you go to audible.com and just browse around, you're going to find 100 books you want. But I'm going to get you that first one free. In fact, this will be signing up for the Gold account, which is a book a month subscription. I use the Platinum, 2 books a month, because I go through a lot of them. And Paul, I think you have a recommendation for that first book that people might want to download.
It's funny, this week I downloaded 3 different Audible books. And I had a hard time picking between them, so I guess I'll save the other 2 up. But this one is classic. I don't know if you're familiar with David Cross. He's a comedian.
I'm not.
Oh, you're not? So did you ever watch Arrested Development?
Yes.
Okay. He was the guy who had to wear the shorts.
Oh.
He could never nude.
Oh, okay.
The guy in the Blue Man Group.
Yeah, I love him.
Okay, that's David Cross. So his first book is called "I Drink for a Reason," and it's awesome. It is just awesome, and it's just really fun. It's not quite a stand-up routine. I mean, it's basically a stand-up routine, or in written form, I guess. But it is beautiful, and it includes the thing. And in fact, this might be on the. I don't remember if I heard this in the book or when I played the. Well, play a little clip because there's
Shall I? All right. This is David Cross. He narrates it himself as well as writing it, but that makes sense when you got a performer.
Don't abandon your baby. The other day, I was driving along by myself in Los Angeles, and I was listening to NPR, National Public Radio, and an elderly woman from Macon, Georgia, was reading a story she had written for Pecan Nights magazine about a switch, which is Southern for tree branch, that she had been made to bring to a teacher to enable the teacher to punish her by beating her with it, when suddenly the switch was turned to licorice by a forgiving and practical joke-loving God. But because she was old, she was taking forever to read it. Her gravely halting voice was barely above a whisper, and she clearly needed a drink of water.
This is why you need an audiobook. Because it comes to life, right? You could read this, but
she talked like that basically, and she sounded like when my mom eats bananas in silent anger. Why does NPR insist on letting its authors read their own stories?
I love it. Oh man, you got me on that.
It's amazing. No,
you got me on that. That sounds great. David Cross, 6 hours and 33 minutes of that for yours, free. All you got, and this is just an example of what is so great about why we love Audible. Audible.com/Windows. Your first book's free. It plays on the Zune, the new Zune 2, the new iPad. It will play on your iPhone, your iPod, many, many devices. Check the device list on the front page there in Device Center for make sure that yours works first. It does not work yet on Android phones. That's coming soon. Audible.com/Windows. We thank them so much for their support.
So let me ask you about that. What is the holdup on Android? Because I remember when we were waiting for them to be on Zune. That took a while as well.
I asked Audible about this, and the deal is there's well over 150 devices that are supported, and Audible doesn't have the resources to write them. So what they do is they have an SDK. They provide anybody with all the information they would need to write this stuff, but they just can't write it for you. And so in general, it's just waiting for somebody else to write it. In the case of the Zune, Microsoft. Now, in Android, anybody can write an Android application, but I would guess that the nature of because of copy protection and everything, that they kind of make it be the Google doing that. So it's the Google's got to get around to it, and I've been told that they're working with Google and that it is imminent. But I think that's what the holdup is.
Interesting.
The companies that make the devices have to do it, and it sometimes takes them a while, depending on what they think of the priority. It certainly doesn't hurt if you're a listener and you love Audible to email Google and/or Audible. I think if you emailed Audible, they'd pass it along to the vendor and say, "Support my device." I mean, it's on the Kindle, it's on GPS devices. It's not a hard thing to do.
It is crazy how many devices. But, Android is obviously kind of an up-and-coming thing. It seems like it should be on there.
And I wonder if Audible doesn't have developers that can work on it. Maybe they do. I don't know. But typically it's the device manufacturer. And if a device can play an MP3, it's not such a complicated thing to get it to play Audible. They're basically MP3s with a wrapper around it that do a few things, like give you chapter markers, playback from where you left off, and copy protection, which, of course, the publishers require.
Sure.
So, I don't think it's that hard to implement, but for whatever reason, I am told it should be in the first half of this year that they will have an Android app. Let's hope that's true.
Yeah.
Audible.com/Windows. Now, time for our software of the week.
Yeah, this one's kind of interesting. There are a lot of Tweak UI type of applications out there, and we've had a few on the show, I'm sure. And this one fixes some very specific problems. It's called Fix Win. And if you go over to the website, you can see actually a nice image of what it does. This is not one of those things where, it scans your computer and finds problems. It literally fixes very specific issues. And some of them, in fact, it's possible to cure in other ways, but it's kind of a nice front end for all this stuff. It works in both Vista and Windows 7. But it's you know, there are these weird things that can have, you know, Windows, there's still kind of a crufty thing that can go on and some weirdness there. And this is actually kind of a neat tool for fixing some of those very specific problems. I should also note these guys have similar tools for, you know, Internet Explorer, Windows Media Player, and some other stuff. So if you check out their site, you can find out some of their other fixes are available as well. But this thing fixes, I guess, over, you know, 50 different problems that can occur.
Wow. And have you tried it? I mean, did you find that it actually?
Yeah, I was playing with this today, actually, which is the reason I decided to pick it. You know, it's the type of thing, you know, and you get these emails sometimes where people will be like, I used to have this thing on my desktop.
Right.
And it's gone. Oh, what's going on with that? Or the icons in my start menu are all default icons. Why? You know, or I click on this music file and it opens in QuickTime now, but I don't want that, and I don't understand, you know, how do I fix that? You know, a lot of the stuff that you can, you know, there are other ways. I mean,
it's
like,
almost all registry fixes, I think.
Absolutely, but you know, and some of this stuff is actually in Windows elsewhere. I mean, you can fix if you know, some of the arrow effects aren't working, for example. You could probably go through some of the troubleshooting stuff in Windows 7 and fix that yourself. But this is a way just to click a button and make it, you know, just fix it. So.
There you go. I like it. It's actually
handy.
a good one for me to know about because I think on the radio show I get a lot of callers. You know, one of the things it has, and I notice, is they suggest that before you run this, you run System File Checker, and it actually has on the welcome page a button that says Run System File Checker.
Yeah.
So I might even just tell people,
Right.
download this and then run System File Checker because it's an easy way to do it. And then it does make a system restore point, which is good. And they say do one fix at a time, which makes. I mean, I know I would just go click. Yeah.
You want to be. You do
Probably don't want to do that. This is great. I'm going to download this immediately. This should be part of my regular build. FixWin. Repair and fix Windows 7 and Vista problems. Paul Thurrott is the editor-in-chief of the wonderful SuperSite for Windows. Will you put in everything? Are you going to do an Everything Must Go soon? Are you going to put it up there?
I am. I got it. I'm not sure of the timing. I have so much stuff. I mean, yeah, I will. I don't want to say when yet because I want to be sure. These things, I always plan them and then it takes months to make it happen. It's awful. My office right now is a disaster area, Sanford and Son looking, you know, nightmare. But yeah.
So, just, you know, one other reason to go to the SuperSite for Windows, winsupersite.com. It's probably one of the few places on the web you can run to avoid iPad news.
Hey, speaking of which, it's funny you should mention the iPad.
Where'd that come from?
Tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Are you going to show up at an Apple store?
No.
No.
I have 4 ordered, and they will arrive automatically. Apple finally figured out that the best way to handle this is to just use UPS. And UPS has got my 4 iPads. I see the tracking. They've got them.
But are you, I mean, when do they arrive?
Sometime Saturday.
I know, but what if it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday? You could show up at the Apple store and...
I could have made an appointment, but it's too late now.
I see. So you're not doing it.
We will be doing live coverage. I won't be there, of the line at the Palo Alto, the official Steve Jobs Apple store, the Palo Alto store. I'm sending Colleen and Eric Lanigan, one of our editors, down there. And this is Eric's like Jimmy Olsen, cub reporter.
Yeah.
This is his chance to make his bones in the newspaper business.
Nice.
Yeah. I said, kid, get the camera and head on down there and cover the line. If it's up all night, you're up all night. So if there's something going on, we'll be streaming it live at live.twit.tv. I know Scoble's going to be there, and I'm looking on Plancast, which is kind of Twitter for upcoming events, and at least 100 people plan to be at that Palo Alto store, including some Mac luminaries. Robert tells me that verbally, Steve Wozniak has said he's going to go down and make this scene. So we'll have coverage, and we may have Woz. We'll certainly have Scoble and something on starting at, I think, 9 Eastern tomorrow night. Actually, tonight as you're hearing the podcast, Friday night. And then Saturday, I hope the UPS guy comes early during the radio show. And I'm gonna if he does, and if you're watching Mr. Petaluma UPS, you come in sometime between 11 and 2, I will put you on the air, and millions.
See, I wish I know my UPS guys, but it's a Saturday thing, so that might be someone different.
I do too. We know
feel like I
Tad
should have
very
paid
well.
this guy something like.
I know. Here's $100.
Listen, I want to see what 901.
We gave him a. Oh, you're getting one, are you?
Of course.
You've ordered it, and it will arrive.
I can't rag on this thing unless I know what it's really like.
That's a good excuse. That's a good excuse. I'm actually on the. I was a little distracted in the last half hour or so of this show because Apple's iTunes Store is already listing iPad apps, and there are hundreds of them.
You can actually buy them now.
I'm ordering them now because I want to avoid the crowd.
Yeah, wow.
And I think
you really thought through this one. Huh?
Look at this is the one Andy showed. You know what's interesting? They're not cheap. Many of these apps are $10. They're none of this iPhone pricing.
Yeah.
These guys are going for the gold, and some of them are even more. Like the OmniGraffle is $50.
Really,
they're charging like real software price. Well, right. I guess $10 is not real software.
That's interesting.
But like Scrabble, $10.
So I don't understand. Where do you see this? I'm looking at the.
Okay, so you go to the iTunes Store and you search for iPad, and you will get the
search for iPad.
Yeah, you'll get the iPad apps selection
list or whatever. Okay,
and there's hundreds of them.
iPad apps.
Hundreds of them. I'm on page 5. Many of the apps that I use, including our own TWiT app, by the way, is already there.
Yep.
So
really?
we have a special version of the TWiT Live app just for iPad.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So these are all developers who, basically, for the most part, I think
for the best.
Yeah, developed in a vacuum.
Yeah. Well, depending on what it is, that's fine. I mean, I would be hesitant to buy a game from someone I don't know. At this point, you want to make sure they know the platform and so forth.
Yeah, but on the other hand, there's some games like Dungeon Hunter that I think will just port so nicely.
Yeah.
That I'm going to get it immediately. And there are still some free things. We Rule, which is Farmville for the iPhone, is they have a version for the pad. So I'll be putting on the pad. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, both have free apps, but I have to think.
Yeah,
they're going to be
the Wall Street Journal is not going to be free.
They said $17.99, but I guess maybe there's I don't know.
Well, no, there's going to be a subscription fee.
Yeah, you think?
Well, I know there is. I mean, if you try to use that on the iPhone, there's a subscription fee.
So maybe that's it. You get the app, and same thing with the New York Times. But of course, I'm downloading them now, just so I'll have them, so that when I get it, look at this Dungeon Hunter. Can't wait. Oh, this is a great game. This is going to be a game platform. Forget the Nintendo DS. This is going to be a heck of a game platform.
I just want to watch movies. Am I kind of a
you know what, Paul? You watch your little movies.
You sad little man.
Sad little man. Hey, good news. There's an application that says Microsoft Windows 7 for iPad. That's great.
Nice.
That's great. It's about time we can get even Windows. No, I don't know. I was very impressed that with the speed that Andy was showing when he demonstrated it of Zoom. I mean, it is only a 1 gigahertz process, only 1 gigahertz, but they're getting some performance out of it.
Right.
Okay, so I'm off to spend another $1,000 on iPad apps. Paul will be back next week.
Oh man,
trying to get drum up a little interest in the Windows platform.
It's not dead yet. I appreciate you.
The operating system formerly known as the king of the
yeah.
Kiki's in here playing with my get away from those. She's playing with my badges again. Kitty nice. Kiki. Kitty Kiki. You thought I was joking.
Yeah.
Paul, it's been a pleasure. It's been a slice. You've really shown that you're a gamer, that even in the face of something that is so obviously going to change the face of computing, you can move on.
Wow. And you have shown a resiliency to facts that I find admirable.
Who needs facts? I've got an iPad.
All right. Well, I will let you know what I think of it next week.
Friendly rivalry. We'll see you next week on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye, everybody.